In the past, Ares often spent his nights listening to a streamer known as Apollo. Her voice was his only solace at that time. Back then, her streams were small and intimate, sometimes consisting of only the two of them talking. Every night, she would end her stream by telling her listeners that she loved them, a simple phrase that stayed deeply etched in Ares' heart. As the new school year begins, a nervous teacher struggles through an important announcement that Furin Girls Academy has merged with Furin Boys, turning the school into a co-ed institution. Before the teacher can fully explain, Ares abruptly interrupts, clearly dissatisfied with the fumbling introduction. He confidently introduces himself to the class, boldly declaring that he will one day lead Japan and therefore cannot tolerate imperfection. He ends his introduction with a respectful bow, but quickly shocks everyone by admitting that he is only 99% perfect. To become complete, he claims he needs all the girls in the class to tell him that they love him. During the break, the boys swarm Ares, angrily accusing him of ruining their reputation and making the girls wary of them. Ares sees no problem with his actions, insisting that they should be grateful. A blonde girl soon approaches him, openly flirting after assuming he comes from a wealthy family. Ares steps toward her, causing her to retreat in surprise at his boldness. After listening carefully to her voice, he bluntly tells her that it lacks impact. Noticing the time, Ares abruptly announces that he needs to use the bathroom, explaining that he relieves himself at the same time every day. As he leaves, the girls whisper about how strange he is, while the boys explain that Ares is searching for a girl whom he only recognizes by voice. Ares overhears them in the hallway, carefully listening to the girls' voices, but none of them match the one he is seeking. As he walks on, he receives a message from his mother. Once notifications like these filled him with excitement, as they usually meant Apollo's stream had started. To Ares' shock, he suddenly hears Rika softly whisper, "I love you," right behind him, teasingly reminding him that break time is almost over. She also points out that he still hasn't gone to the toilet. Flustered, Ares hurriedly rushes off to take care of his business. During lunch, Ares remains distracted, constantly replaying Rika's voice in his head. His thoughts are abruptly interrupted when a female voice echoes through the school intercom. The boys around him are immediately thrilled that the announcements are being handled by a girl. Ares, however, feels something else entirely. Without warning, he declares that he suddenly has something important to do and rushes out. He sprints through the hallways toward where he believes the broadcast room is, his heart racing at the possibility that the voice belongs to Apollo. Based on their past conversations, he knows she should be around the same age as him and lives in the same prefecture. He also remembers her dream of attending an all-girls high school with a view of the ocean. To increase his chances of meeting her, Ares had deliberately enrolled in Furin Boys, knowing that the school would eventually become co-ed by the time they reached high school. When he finally reaches the broadcast room, Ares swings the door open. Inside, he finds 4 girls staring at him in confusion. They quickly scold him for interrupting their broadcast, and Rika immediately tells Nene to mute the mic. As the girls continue reprimanding him, Ares listens closely and notices that each of them sounds like Apollo in a different way. Rika shares a similar tone, Shinobu has the same intonation and pronunciation, Iko's manner of speaking reminds him of Apollo's whispery streams, and Nene carries the same angry voice. Ares feels a deep sense of disappointment. He had believed he could recognize Apollo instantly by her voice alone, yet now he can't determine which of them she might be. The girls then ask if he plans on going pro someday. Confused, Ares listens as they explain that they joined the broadcasting club to pursue careers using their voices. Shinobu shares her dream of becoming an anchor, prompting the others to talk about their own ambitions. Their words stir another memory where Apollo once spoke of a similar dream. Ares' thoughts are cut short when Shinobu casually admits that she already knows about him, thanks to his outrageous self-introduction. But Nene kicks him and angrily calls him a creep for making such an outrageous request. Ares explains himself, insisting that he is searching for someone important. Iko asks if that person might be her as she shows him her VTuber model and admits that her shyness is part of her persona. Rika quickly jumps in to tease Ares, suggesting that he actually came all this way just to see her. To everyone's surprise, Ares calmly admits that he did, and then bluntly asks all 4 girls if any of them is Apollo. The girls stare at him in confusion, with some even wondering aloud if he's talking about the chocolate brand. Ares looks at them in disbelief. He's convinced they're lying. He reasons that Apollo may not want to reveal herself and that her disappearance from streaming is likely connected to that decision. Deciding not to push further for now, Ares turns to leave, convincing himself that he'll have plenty of chances to investigate them another day. However, the girls tell him not to come back since only club members are allowed inside the broadcast room. Ares turns back and boldly declares that he is a professional when it comes to voice work, giving him every right to join the broadcasting club. He then points out that a major flaw in their operation is their outdated equipment. Iko is the first to agree with him, admitting that the school equipment is old, but there's little they can do about it. Aries then proposes that he'll provide them with brand new equipment if they allow him to join the club. The room falls silent until Shinobu finally admits that it sounds like a good deal. Rika also agrees, casually adding that she finds Aries' voice pleasant. The compliment catches him off guard. Thanking them, Aries confidently promises to lead the club to greatness as their president, only for Nene to angrily snap back that Rika is already their president. The girls then wonder how they can repay him for the equipment. Rika smiles and says she has the perfect idea. She tells Aries to face the other direction. When he does, she and the other girls suddenly surround him with voices, all announcing that they love him. Overwhelmed and deeply embarrassed, Aries hastily declares that he needs to finish his lunch and promptly rushes out of the room. Outside, Aries is certain that one of the girls is Apollo. His thoughts drift back to her final stream. He had been the only listener when she ended the broadcast. She told everyone she loved them. Summoning his courage, Aries had responded, telling her that he loved her too. The memory makes him cringe, and he scolds himself for confessing to a girl he barely knew. Part of his urgency to find Apollo is due to that confession, since he needs it deleted. Aries is confident that he will become someone important in the future, and he cannot risk something so embarrassing being used against him. By the end of the day, the club members celebrate Aries' acceptance. They force him into odd party clothes, and although he is clearly being teased, Aries does his best to appear thankful. He almost snaps when Nene refers to him as their errand boy, but Shinobu explains that it was the only way their advisor would approve his membership. Swallowing his pride, he agrees to go along with it and promises to do his best as the club's errand boy. The following day, Aries reviews his notes and decides that he will carefully observe each of the girls. When he enters the club room, only Shinobu is there, adjusting her script for the after-school broadcast. She explains that she tends to flub her lines, so she marks difficult words. She gestures for him to stay quiet as the broadcast begins. Aries watches closely, recalling that Shinobu wants to become a news anchor. She is also the student council vice president and a model honor student. As Shinobu delivers the announcements, Aries is impressed by how clear her voice is. However, the moment she reaches the words she marked in her script, she immediately mispronounces them. It happens every time, so noticeably that Aries can't ignore it. Without thinking, he scolds her, forgetting the microphone is still on. Back in the classroom, Aries' male classmates warn him not to correct Shinobu. They insist that her habit of messing up her lines is part of her charm. Deciding it's pointless to argue, Aries leaves them behind as they continue gushing over her. Mentally, he lowers Shinobu on his list of possible Apollo candidates. Soon after, Aries overhears Nene animatedly talking about Lilikos, a comic he clearly remembers Apollo mentioning. Nene is well known for her bright, energetic personality and is also popular as an avid cosplayer. When a classmate hands her a comic and asks her to voice Lily's lines, Nene happily agrees. As she begins reading aloud, her performance is shockingly accurate, and even Aries finds himself impressed. However, she suddenly stumbles over a word. Unfortunately, she goes on to misread several more lines, unintentionally changing the story. Hearing this, Aries feels disappointed. When Nene finally notices him watching, she loudly calls him out for staring. Aries attempts to explain himself, but the people around her already view him unfavorably, so he quietly removes himself from the situation. Sitting alone on a set of steps, Aries reflects on why identifying Apollo has been so difficult. He wonders if listening to her through streams has distorted his perception of her real voice. While he's convinced that Apollo must be one of the girls in the broadcasting club, he realizes that voice alone isn't enough. He needs to match what he knows about Apollo's personality with each of them. His thoughts are interrupted when Iko suddenly speaks right beside him, startling him so that he falls forward. She quickly apologizes, explaining that she can't see well with her colored contacts. Aries recalls that Iko is an aspiring VTuber. Iko explains that she uses this spot to do short streams during break. She sets up her tablet, and Aries leans closer to observe. Iko energetically greets her viewers, reads a few live comments, and then quickly ends the stream. Aries is surprised by how short it was, but she explains that break time streams are meant to be brief. Despite this, Aries feels another wave of disappointment and excuses himself. Wandering aimlessly through the school, his frustration grows. To him, it feels like all the club members are far too relaxed. His thoughts return to Apollo, how seriously she spoke about wanting to use her voice professionally. He remembers promising Apollo that he would learn everything he could about voice work so he could support her. The two of them had sworn to work toward the professional world together. Now, Aries wonders if he's the only one who ever meant that promise. Soon, Shinobu's voice echoes through the school for announcements. Elsewhere, Iko spots Rika doing nothing and scolds her for slacking off. Rika apologizes, then wonders aloud what Aries really thinks of them. Suddenly, Aries' voice cuts through the intercom. Alarmed, the girls rush toward the broadcast room. When they arrive, they find Aries openly calling out the broadcasting club for being lax and telling the students that they shouldn't be treated like princesses. If Apollo is among them, she needs to remember their promise. Since he doesn't know which girl she is, he decides that he'll make sure all of their dreams come true. He declares over the broadcast that he will work tirelessly to guide the broadcasting club toward becoming true professionals. The moment he finishes, he's promptly kicked out of the room so the girls can take over the broadcast. His phone notifies him that Apollo is live. Aries immediately tunes in. Apollo greets him warmly, admitting that she's happy he's listening and that she was always grateful to him, even back when she barely had any viewers. She apologizes, saying she still can't reveal herself yet. Then she confesses that whenever she told her listeners that she loved them, she was always talking about him. Aries listens in silence, staring at the broadcast room door. As the girls continue their broadcast, Aries checks his phone. Apollo's message confirms his suspicion that she is part of the broadcasting club. He considers going back into the room, but ultimately decides against it. Instead, he leaves, determined to find her and fulfill their promise. The next morning, Aries gathers the girls at the beach for an early jog, explaining that running is excellent vocal training. Shinobu notices a seagull flying past with an earbud caught in its beak. Aries recognizes it as his own and suddenly sprints off in reverse to catch it, astonishing the girls of how fast he moves even while running backward. After the jog, the girls are left shocked by the fact that Aries isn't even out of breath. Nene scolds him for acting like their personal coach. Calmly, Aries removes his sunglasses and tells her that he is the perfect person to turn them into professionals. Nene is ready to argue again, but Shinobu cuts in, admitting that they really have been slacking off. Shinobu adds that they had already talked about exercising together, so this training works out well for everyone. Rika then steps forward and directly asks Aries if they can trust him with their future. Aries looks at her carefully before answering that he's serious about wanting all of them to succeed. Nene challenges him to prove it. Aries agrees, but first suggests they stop for breakfast. At that, the girls suddenly grow uneasy and try to head back toward the club room. When Aries asks why they're running away, Nene snaps that they're sweaty and need to change first. After changing, they meet at a diner. There, Aries hands each of them a notebook filled with notes outlining their weaknesses and specific ways to improve. He explains that he personally tailored each one, so their training plans differ depending on their needs. The girls are impressed by the level of detail, though Nene is bewildered by the massive stack of reading exercises assigned to her. The girls continue going through Aries' notes and notice that each of them has concrete goals meant to push them one step closer to their dream. Rika is surprised that she needs to sell at least 50 CDs during a live performance. Aries proudly explains that all of these goals are designed to build confidence. A brief silence follows until Rika asks Aries if he has ever played an instrument himself. He admits that he hasn't, so Rika points out that it takes a lot of courage to sing and perform in front of an audience. Aries insists that she should follow his plan anyway, arguing that live performance is something she must face. Rika then asks if Aries has ever been nervous before. Without hesitation, he replies that nervousness isn't part of his family. Rika stands up, cups his face, and calmly calls him a liar. To her, he's all talk, and she sees no reason to listen to his advice. With that, she quietly leaves the diner. Aries is left confused, prompting Nene to explain that he managed to make Rika angry. She adds that Rika is talented enough to write her own music, so being lectured by someone who lacks first-hand experience feels insulting. As the girls talk, they suddenly realize Aries is missing. In reality, he's crouched under the table, shaken by what Rika had said. After a moment, he starts laughing and pulls himself back up, declaring that the only way forward is to hear Rika perform. The following Wednesday after classes, Aries heads to the school courtyard. He's heard rumors that Rika holds weekly mini concerts there, drawing large crowds of female fans. As soon as the fans notice Aries, they immediately tell him to back off. He tries to explain that he's Rika's clubmate, but the crowd won't listen. Before things can escalate further, she looks out at the crowd and admits that she's nervous. Aries freezes in shock, since it's the exact same line Apollo used to say before she sang. As she begins playing an original song, Aries stares at her as she captivates both the crowd and him. In that moment, he's pulled back to the past, remembering the times Apollo would sing during her streams. Memories come flooding back. Those evenings spent listening to Apollo were some of the best moments of his life. As Rika continues to play, the idea that she might truly be Apollo suddenly feels very real. When Rika finishes her first song, Aries realizes that her similarity to Apollo is far stronger than that of the other girls. Eventually, Rika announces that she'll accept one final song request. As the girls excitedly shout out suggestions, she glances at her backpack filled with her original compositions, then briefly looks toward Aries. She can't help thinking how much she doesn't want Aries to hear her songs. After the concert ends, she bids her fans goodbye and walks over to him. With a teasing smile, she asks if his heart belongs to her now after hearing her perform. Aries immediately agrees and apologizes for doubting her. He tells her that her live performances are guaranteed to succeed. Rika's expression hardens, and she tells him that she doesn't have to listen to him, then walks off. Several days pass, and Rika starts to feel uneasy when she realizes she hasn't seen Aries around. She hears a commotion coming from the courtyard and rushes over. There, she sees Aries surrounded by girls trying to defend himself as they complain. When he notices her, he greets her and explains that he's performing. He tells her that he's been practicing to prove her wrong. Rika is left speechless by his explanation, but her attention is drawn to his hand, which is wrapped in bandages. Rika can't help but admire Aries' determination. She apologizes to the girls for forgetting to inform them that today's performance will be a duet with Aries. She then steps onto the stage beside him, leaving Aries visibly confused. Rika reassures him that he can play whatever he wants and that she'll support him. After the performance, Rika teasingly comments on how rough their concert was and asks if he finally felt nervous. Despite everything, Aries stubbornly refuses to admit it. Amused, Rika suddenly presses her ear to his chest. The move completely catches Aries off guard. Trapping him in place, she smirks when she hears his heart racing. On another day after classes, Nene leaves the club room ahead of everyone. Iko suggests that she's probably up to something shady. Aries reminds her about her goal of passing the language exam. Furious, Nene curses at him and slams the club room door. Aries suspects that Nene might be getting herself into trouble, but Shinobu calmly reassures him that she isn't doing anything wrong. Still unconvinced, Aries decides to follow Nene. He sees her enter an empty classroom and quietly approaches the door. He watches Nene reading the comic out loud. Her voice is surprisingly soft and sweet, but something about her delivery feels off. Unable to hold back, Aries slides the door open and bluntly tells her that her acting is terrible. He sees the cover and realizes it's a romance manga he's never heard of. Nene is shocked by his ignorance, loudly declaring that Knightly Love is the hottest comic around. She immediately launches into an enthusiastic explanation of the story, which is a forbidden romance between a knight and a princess. She describes her favorite scene where the princess hides her feelings by pretending to brush dirt from the knight's armor, secretly planting a kiss on his helmet when no one is watching. So absorbed in her explanation, Nene doesn't notice how close Aries has moved. At that moment, Aries notices an announcement printed on the comic's cover stating that auditions are being held for the anime adaptation. With her secret exposed, Nene insists that she needs to practice alone. Aries refuses, saying that her success is now part of his responsibility, so he has every reason to stay. When Nene still won't accept his help, Aries starts revealing his own embarrassing moments one after another, blushing as he speaks. He tells her that if she's going to be embarrassed, then he'll be embarrassed alongside her. Seeing how serious he is, she finally sits down and explains that she plans to audition. The problem is that she's never been in a relationship, so she has no idea how to act it out. When she accuses Aries of not taking her seriously, he calmly says that what she needs is experience. Without warning, Aries kneels on one knee, takes her hand, and asks her to be his girlfriend. Nene freezes, then immediately explodes in disbelief. Aries explains that he was simply acting out a line from the comic. He tells her to accept his confession so she can get used to acting like she's in a relationship before the auditions begin. Nene stubbornly refuses, but Aries presses on. He accuses her of not taking her dreams seriously if she isn't willing to act for just 3 weeks to prepare for the role. From the look on her face, Aries knows he's struck a nerve. The next day, the two of them arrive at school holding hands, instantly shocking the entire student body. Nene is visibly nervous, while Aries seems to be enjoying himself, even reciting lines straight from the comic. At one point, he pulls her closer and casually offers to carry her on his back. Nene's face burns red as she realizes that the final chapter of the comic includes a kiss between the two leads. She starts to wonder if Aries intends to act out the entire story. News of their relationship quickly reaches the broadcasting club. While they accept it on the surface, something feels off. As time passes, the club notices that Aries and Nene argue far more than they act affectionately. By the 19th day, it's clear they bicker constantly and don't resemble lovers at all. Shinobu believes this means the two have grown closer and more comfortable with each other. On the 20th day, Aries and Nene find themselves alone in the same empty classroom. The deadline is close and there's only the kissing scene left. At first, Nene worries about her chapped lips. Then her thoughts spiral and she starts to suspect that Aries went through all of this just to kiss her. She's on the verge of yelling at him until she notices Aries quietly studying the comic. In that moment, she realizes he truly wants to help her. Reluctantly, she admits to herself that he's actually a better actor than she is and that working with him has helped her improve. Bracing herself, Nene prepares her lips, fully expecting Aries to initiate the kiss. Instead, he calmly tells her to rest well for the audition. Caught off guard, she asks if they are going to practice the kiss scene. Aris answers that they won't and explains that she should only kiss someone she truly loves. Nene doesn't expect such thoughtfulness from him, and though it leaves her flustered, she chooses to hide it behind anger. She calls him an idiot and storms toward the door. Before she leaves, Aris softly wishes her good luck. Hesitating for just a moment, Nene admits that she had a little fun during the past 3 weeks. The following day, Nene announces that she didn't pass the audition. The news hits Aris so hard that he faints on the spot, overwhelmed after all the preparation they went through. Nene quickly adds that it isn't his fault. Aris apologizes for not being able to predict the outcome. The comic is held over his face to hide his regret. Watching him like that, Nene suddenly recalls her favorite scene. Deciding it's the perfect chance, she leans in and gently kisses the book covering his face. As she turns to leave, Aris grabs her hand and asks if she kissed him. Then, without hesitation, he bluntly asks if she's fallen for him. Enraged, Nene flips him over her shoulder and loudly declares that she hates him before storming out of the classroom. The outburst startles the broadcasting club members waiting outside. They rush in to find Aris on one knee. Shinobu calmly reassures him that Nene was clearly lying just now. The others smile knowingly, since Nene's ears had turned bright red when she left. While the girls are changing in the club room, they forget to lock the door. Aris opens it and sees them changing. He quickly scolds them for changing without locking the door, warning that if anyone else had entered, their reputations could have been ruined. Just as quickly, he apologizes for seeing something he shouldn't have. Everyone settles down and they proceed with the after-school announcements, with Rika taking over this time after Shinobu flubbed her lines earlier. Afterward, the girls decide they want something sweet and invite Aris to come with them, but he declines, saying he has something else to do. Once he leaves, Nene suggests they follow him to get even. Rika hesitates, admitting she doesn't really feel embarrassed about what happened, but Nene points out that it's because Rika was mostly hidden behind her. In the end, the girls agree out of curiosity about Aris's private life. Nene even gives their plan a dramatic name. They follow Aris out of school and onto a train. Nene tries to snap photos from another car, hoping to catch him doing something suspicious, but he's only reading a textbook. Eventually, they get off and see Aris enter a cafe. While Nene remains focused on uncovering something shady, the other girls are more interested in what they might order. When they enter the cafe, they quickly duck into a distant seat so Aris won't notice them. As Aris becomes busy with his work, the girls wonder why Aris needs a part-time job. They overhear Aris speaking with the manager and learn that he's been taking on extra shifts to earn more money to upgrade the broadcasting club's equipment. The manager expresses some concern, asking if he's sure he wants to spend so much on a club. Aris answers that he wants to invest in the 4 members. He explains that while they're still far from being professionals, each of them has a great voice. The girls listen closely as the cafe manager casually asks Aris if he's in love with them. Aris denies it, saying he only cares about them as fellow club members. Before the conversation can go any further, the girls suddenly announce that they're ready to order. Aris turns toward the voices while Nene steps closer. As Aris struggles to understand why they're there, Nene eagerly starts taking photos of him. Back at the table, the other girls decide that this is embarrassing enough to count as payback. The following day, Aris is already in the broadcast room. He worries that Apollo might use the photos as blackmail. He's startled when Iko suddenly enters the room far earlier than expected. Aris panics, wondering if Iko is here to threaten him. To his surprise, Iko explains that she just wants to show him something embarrassing of her own. She locks the door and slowly unzips her jacket, only to pull out her tablet. Aris sits down as Iko shows him her VTuber model. She asks if he can help her improve her streams. As they check her channel statistics, Aris notices that her recent streams haven't been getting many views. They scroll through the comments, most of which suggest that her content is getting boring. Aris bluntly tells her that they probably are, pointing out that her streams are usually very short and often consist of nothing more than greeting viewers. Iko immediately gets defensive, insisting that those are just her break-time streams. She explains that her regular content includes a variety and proudly adds that she designed her own VTuber model. Aris looks at her, unimpressed, and calmly tells her that he already knows since he watched all her streams. This makes Iko self-conscious as she calls him a stalker. Aris loudly protests, pointing out that she can't accuse him of that when everything she posts is publicly available. He then pulls up clips of her avatar and bluntly tells her that the real problem is that her model barely shows any emotion. Iko complains that he's being too loud, but Aris fires back, saying that her avatar feels lifeless. He explains that with current technology, even a 2D model can be animated with different expressions. Iko looks down and admits that she isn't good with that kind of technical work, and that commissioning someone to upgrade her VTuber model would be expensive. Aris starts to remind her that she already has someone reliable by her side, but Iko immediately reminds him that he is their errand boy. After recovering from the insult, Aris firmly tells her to leave all the technical work to him. Before she can thank him, he adds that Iko still has her own job to do as she needs to separate her avatar into different layers for him. The two of them dive straight into work. They spend days coordinating, tweaking settings, and even holding strategy meetings to prepare for the debut of her upgraded model. One afternoon, as Iko waits alone in the broadcast room, Aris suddenly slams the door open and announces that it's finally time to debut her new model. He proudly shows her the updated version of Ikon, but Iko is unable to see any difference. Aris explains that while the model looks the same, it can now copy her facial expressions using face tracking. He asks her to test it by laughing. Iko does, but her expression is subtle, and the avatar's laugh looks half-hearted. Aris tells her to exaggerate her emotions more, but Iko insists that she already is. Seeing her resistance, Aris explains that her fans are searching for a stronger emotional connection, and that means Ikon needs to show a wider range of expressions. Iko argues that she always smiles when she streams, but Aris bluntly tells her that her smile feels fake. Iko pulls her hood over her head and admits that she's just not good at showing her emotions. In response, Aris calmly locks the door, then suddenly starts tickling her, telling her to let her emotions out because no one wants to watch a streamer with a poker face. Iko finally manages to break free and whirls around, ready to scold Aris, only to freeze when she sees him wearing a pair of novelty glasses. She immediately turns away, covering her face as a small chuckle threatens to spill. Aris tries to coax her into facing him again, but in the process, they lose their balance and tumble to the floor. Aris ends up pinning her down and tells her that the smile she's making right now is exactly the expression her viewers want to see. Before he can say anything else, he hears Nene's voice coming from outside the window. When he looks over, he realizes it's a phone on a video call, awkwardly held up on a selfie stick. The girls had tried to enter the room, but found it locked. Seeing Aris and Iko on the floor together, Nene immediately panics and rushes back to start banging on the door. Aris instantly understands that explaining this situation will be a nightmare. Iko tries to explain what happened, but her explanation makes it sound like Aris was doing something seriously inappropriate. Without giving him a chance to defend himself, the girls decide to tie him up. Nene starts driving him toward the police station, but before they leave, Iko gives Aris a small, sincere smile, thanking him for all the work he's done for her. Aris returns the smile with a smirk and tells her that the true charm of a VTuber lies in being able to show who you really are behind the avatar. Iko's smile widens and she promises that she'll give her viewers a genuine smile in tomorrow's stream. Aris wishes her luck, and the other girls can't help but smile at the scene since it's strangely impressive how Aris still manages to look cool, even while tied up. The next day, excitement builds among viewers as word spreads about Ikon's new model. When the streaming finally starts, Ikon delivers her usual introduction, but fans in the chat seem confused, struggling to see any difference from her old model. Inside the broadcast room, Aris quietly scolds her, noting that she's even stiffer than usual. Iko nervously turns to him and admits that she's struggling. Still, since she's already live, she continues the stream, explaining to her viewers how much effort she put into creating and upgrading her avatar. As Aris watches her, he realizes the issue isn't that Iko can't express herself, it's that she can't do it in front of other people. As Iko's view count continues to drop, her expression grows more discouraged. Aris watches helplessly as she begs her remaining viewers to stay, explaining that she just needs a moment to adjust her model's settings. Seeing her like this, Aris starts to wonder if something traumatic might have happened in her past. Just as Iko begins saying goodbye to her viewers, Aris steps in front of her. When she looks up, she sees him holding a large white sketch pad with the word "smile" written on it. Iko panics. She's been trying to do exactly that, but the moment she looks at the screen, her face completely freezes. She squeezes her eyes shut, then opens them again when Aris taps the pad. This time, there's a new message asking if Iko wants him to help. Careful not to let her viewers hear, Iko mouths the words, "Help me." Aris smirks and suddenly moves behind her, then pauses the stream. Iko panics and immediately scolds him for stopping the broadcast. Aris calmly points out that her viewers were already leaving anyway. He tells her to look at herself first. When Iko does, she realizes she's sweating badly from nerves. Aris suggests she take off a few layers so she can relax. After tossing an insult his way, she reluctantly follows his advice. Aris sits down and teases her about the big promise she made. Iko pouts and admits she did realize she'd get this nervous. Still, Aris bluntly counters that if she were truly serious, she should have at least been able to smile. He goes even further, calling her VTubing career something she's just half-heartedly fooling around with. That's when Iko finally snaps. She shouts that he's a jerk and insists that she is serious about becoming a great VTuber someday. She argues that she does have emotions, she's just terrified of showing them. Aris coldly asks if she hates streaming and suggests that maybe she should just quit altogether. That question breaks her. Tears well up as she cries that she loves streaming and doesn't want to quit. Aris then asks what she loves about streaming. Without thinking, Iko answers with a shy smile. She says she loves interacting with her viewers. Before she can say anything more, Shinobu suddenly bursts into the room. She blurts out that the stream's audio was never muted, so everyone heard her. Hearing the earlier stream, Nene immediately realizes that Aris was behind everything. Convinced that she's about to be cancelled, Iko panics. When Iko looks, she's stunned as the chat is overflowing with comments and her viewer count has shot up to over 2,000 people. Shinobu gently tells her that she at least owes her viewers an explanation. Iko hesitates, overwhelmed by the sudden attention and nervous about speaking to so many people. That's when Aris reminds her of what he said the day before, then slightly corrects himself. He explains that sometimes a VTuber's appeal becomes even stronger when they accidentally reveal their true self. He encourages Iko to end the stream on a positive note. Taking a deep breath, Iko uses her model. She jokingly pretends to fire a forget-it beam at them. The sudden expression catches everyone by surprise. As she ends the stream with a shy, nervous smile, her fans begin getting excited over her new expressions. Later, while in the boys' restroom, Aris notices an invitation to Ikon's private stream. He tunes in and casually announces that he's watching from the toilet. Iko brushes off the comment but admits she wanted to thank him using her new model. Aris pretends to be clueless, but Iko tells him that she knows he angered her on purpose. Ikon's avatar mirrors her gentle smile as she promises to keep doing her best. Aris smiles back and tells her that while Ikon's smile is cute, it doesn't compare to Iko's real one. The compliment makes Ikon's avatar suddenly revert to a poker face. Behind the screen, Iko hurriedly covers her face to block the tracking. She struggles to calm herself down as heat rushes up her face. Shinobu spearheads a meeting for the school's very first sports festival since becoming co-ed. During the meeting, one of the male council members points out that the documents she handed out are littered with her selfies. Shinobu panics when she realizes she messed up. She lets out an embarrassed laugh and hurriedly asks everyone to keep the mistake a secret. The male council members simply stare at her with dreamy expressions, finding her flustered reaction oddly adorable. Throughout the day, Shinobu is constantly approached by students, each one needing her help with something. Despite already having too much on her plate, she continues to smile and accepts every request that comes her way. By sunset, she finally makes her way to the broadcast room, exhaustion clearly settling into her body. She knows she'll likely be busy until late in the evening. The broadcast club holds a meeting to discuss their responsibilities for the upcoming sports festival. When it comes time to assign tasks, Shinobu ends up volunteering for most of the work herself, since most of the members seem unwilling to take up some tasks. However, once they check out all their roles, they quickly realize just how much she's taken on and voice their concerns. Shinobu, however, insists that she can handle it all and claims that it's better this way. Aris then suggests that the club should host an event of their own during the festival. Some members immediately share ideas, while others admit they're not sure what they want to do yet. Shinobu volunteers to write everything down and handle the proposal as well. After the meeting, Rika reminds everyone to think about what kind of event they want to run. The group eventually agrees that karaoke would be fun to end the day, but Shinobu turns down the invitation, saying she'll be busy later. Rika offers to help her with her workload, but Shinobu gently refuses. In the end, the rest of the members decide to head home instead of going out, choosing not to go without her. Suddenly, Aris locks eyes with Shinobu, startling her. Without saying a word, he turns and darts away, only to return moments later with his bag. He tells Shinobu to follow him. He leads her to an empty staircase and corners her there. Lowering his voice, Aris asks her to promise to keep what he's about to do a secret. Shinobu grows nervous, half expecting that he might kiss her, but instead, Aris offers her a lozenge, pointing out that her voice doesn't sound the same. When she accepts it, he reminds her to keep it a secret. Lozenges count as candy, and he can't be caught bringing sweets to school since it's against the rules. Shinobu feels flattered that Aris noticed the change in her voice. However, the strange pressure settles and when he casually mentions that he's always watching and listening to her. Flustered, Shinobu slowly promises to keep herself behaving properly in front of him, which causes him to get suspicious. Aris's expression turns serious as he bluntly tells her that she's overworking herself. Shinobu easily admits that it's an old habit of hers to take on everything. She says she does it because she wants to be praised. Realizing how selfish that sounds, she immediately tries to take it back, but Aris has already processed her words. He tells her that she has this perfect image of herself that she wants to achieve. He acknowledges that it's a lofty goal and that the pressure she puts on herself must be overwhelming. Still, he assures her that she doesn't need to worry anymore because he's around now, and he'll draw everyone's attention to himself instead. Shinobu stares at him, stunned. His tone softens, becoming gentler as he reassures her that she doesn't have to do everything alone. She can rely on others and on him. He tells her she deserves a break and should allow herself to have fun every now and then. Aris turns to leave, but his words linger with Shinobu. Before he can get too far, she suddenly grabs his hand and asks him to have some fun with her. They end up in the library, where Shinobu instructs Aris to close his eyes. Though he obeys, unease settles in his chest. Just before Shinobu can place a piece of chocolate into his mouth, he catches a glimpse of it and quickly moves away because he nearly broke a rule. Shinobu smiles candidly, amused that she was caught. They settle into their seats, Shinobu's work spread out in front of them. She explains that she finds working and snacking oddly comforting. Aris looks at the sweets, amazed at how many snacks Shinobu managed to sneak into school, even though bringing them is technically forbidden. That apparently is why she brought him along as insurance. She tries to feed him a Pocky stick so he would be a fellow rebel, but he clenches his teeth, absolutely refusing to break the rules. Still, he reassures her that he won't tell a soul about this. He then asks why she chose to work and eat snacks in the library. Shinobu explains that she needs access to the copier, which makes Aris realize just how heavy her workload is. He offers to take 2/3 of it, insisting that he handle it himself since he's noticed she's a little sick. Shinobu smiles and calls him reliable, but Aris tells her she should just be honest and let the others help more. Though she looks like she is considering the suggestion, she refuses and says she's happy with how she handles things. She compares herself to a small strawberry chocolate, insisting that her role is to enhance the sweetness of other things. She goes on to tell Aris that she finds the other members of the broadcast club amazing. She admires how headstrong they are in pursuing their dreams, where talent means everything. Instead of chasing what she personally wants, she'd rather help them achieve what they want. Shinobu also mentions that the other girls tend to stir up trouble, so it's important for her to keep them in check. Unable to stop herself, Shinobu starts recounting all the problems the broadcast club faced during last year's sports festival. That's why she wants this year's festival to be a success, especially since she plans to quit the club by fall. The news catches Aris off guard. Shinobu explains that she needs better grades to enter a prestigious university. Most announcers come from top schools, so she needs to lay the groundwork now if she wants to succeed in the industry. Aris calms down after hearing her reasoning. He understands her logic, but still ends up exploding over her decision. He bluntly calls her weak, saying it's still possible for her to succeed and stay in the club. She weakly argues that aiming for too much might leave her with nothing in the end. Aris sighs, crouches down to her level, and asks who she sees in front of her. She answers flatly that he's just the errand boy, an answer that clearly doesn't impress him. He reminds her that he's here to help her. If she has problems with her grades, he'll help her study, along with anything else she might need. She can do whatever she wants because she will always have someone she can lean on. He offers his hand, reminding her that he already promised to lead her toward becoming a professional. She takes it and lets him pull her up. Aris admits that he can't stand the thought of her leaving and tells her that she should never sell herself short since she's just as charming as the other members of the broadcast club. Shinobu blushes at the compliment and eventually sits back down as Aris asks if she already has a plan for the sports festival. She admits that she does, so Aris offers to help draft her presentation. Shinobu shyly asks him to keep everything a secret from the girls. At first, Aris assumes she means the illegal snacking, but she clarifies that she doesn't want them to know about her plans to quit the club, her inferiority complex, or how he helped her find confidence again. Instead of answering, Aris responds by eating some of the snacks, effectively becoming her partner in crime. Shinobu giggles at the crumbs around his mouth, giddy over their shared secret. The next day, Shinobu presents her idea to the girls, calling it The Messenger. The girls are immediately on board, confident it will be a hit. They quickly begin discussing logistics and how to convince their advisor, while Shinobu and Aris exchange subtle gestures over their shared secret. On the day of the festival, everyone is shocked during the sprint when Aris manages to beat the athletes. Instead of stopping, he keeps running straight to the commentator's table and announces his own victory. Nene finally arrives, apologizing for running late. Soon they hear Rika's voice announcing the start of another event. Iko comes to pick her up since they're participating in the scavenger hunt. When they arrive, they spot Aris doing the commentary. Iko remarks that he somehow makes everything sound overly dramatic to the point of being embarrassing. Meanwhile, she and Rika pick up notes that describe what they need to get. To Aris' surprise, both girls rush up to him and insist that he follow them. Curious about what's written on their notes, he asks, but they refuse to answer and continue dragging him forward. Not wanting to lose either, Aris suddenly scoots both girls up, earning shocked reactions from the crowd as he dashes ahead at an incredible speed. Unfortunately, it still isn't enough. Iko and Rika try to find out what was written on each other's papers, but both decide it's too embarrassing to reveal. Aris rushes to the chariot event he's supposed to join with Shinobu. When he arrives, Shinobu is standing in front of two teammates who were injured earlier. Shinobu suggests sitting the event out, but Aris refuses to back down. Iko is handling the commentary for this event and quickly notices that Nene is acting as a horse for another team. Meanwhile, Aris and Shinobu enter as a two-person team, with Aris carrying Shinobu alone over his shoulder. Shinobu finds the situation deeply embarrassing, but Aris feels no shame since quitting is far worse for him. Iko settles for wishing everyone luck, deliberately avoiding comments about their strange formation or whether it even follows the rules. Nene's team is the first to target Shinobu's bandana. They bicker as Nene grows increasingly nervous. When she starts to hesitate, Aris feels concerned. But in the middle of it all, Shinobu's bandana gets taken. When Shinobu tells him, Aris drops to his knees in despair as Nene's team moves on to steal another bandana. Shinobu tries to comfort him, and Nene notices just how close the two of them have become. She scolds herself when she realizes she's starting to feel jealous. But she's so lost in thought that she almost forgets she still has to run to protect her rider. Eventually, there's an intermission before the next round of events, and the club retreats to their club room to rest. Despite their exhaustion, everyone feels relieved that they're doing well. Aris then brings up their own event, The Messenger. In the event, students can use string phones to relay messages to the broadcast club, which will then be announced anonymously. Aris thinks the idea would work just as well with written messages, but Shinobu insists that hearing the sender's voice is essential so they can properly convey the emotion when announcing it. She then reveals the flyers she's already prepared. Aris wonders why they don't just announce the event outright, but the girls immediately explain that the teachers would shut it down before it even starts. By spreading the word this way, it'll take time for the teachers to catch on. And by then, the event should already be popular enough that it won't be stopped. As a backup, Shinobu is spearheading the project, and her good reputation might help smooth things over. Shinobu smiles, admitting that this is something she's always wanted to do. She feels confident it'll become a memory worth cherishing. Just as they're about to start handing out flyers, Lemon, their club advisor, enters the club room, already aware of what they're planning. Lemon reads over the proposal and listens to their request to hold the event during the lunch broadcast. However, she is quick to deny them. The girls voice their complaints, but Lemon breezily tells them that she does not want to be involved in any trouble. Aris takes this opportunity to introduce himself and try to convince Lemon that their idea is worthwhile, but she does not even listen to him and immediately shuts him down. She openly states her dislike of allowing boys into the club in the first place. Shinobu steps forward and bows deeply, begging Lemon to allow them to proceed with the event. Lemon remains unmoved at first, but Shinobu then adds that Lemon herself could benefit from this. She points out how well the broadcast club has been performing during the festival and suggests that their success will reflect positively on Lemon as their advisor. Seeing how Lemon's eyes brighten, the rest of the club begins to join in to convince her. This finally catches her attention. Lemon sits back in her advisor's chair and tells them they may go ahead with their idea. She then asks how they plan to proceed. When she hears that they intend to hand out flyers, she immediately says that their plan will not work. At that moment, they hear Samejima, one of the PE teachers, loudly ordering boys and girls to remain separated. Lemon explains that he's keeping a strict watch over students during lunch, meaning handing out flyers would get them caught instantly. The girls begin scrambling to think of another plan. But Lemon suddenly offers to distract Samejima for 10 minutes, just enough time for the club to distribute their flyers. With that, Lemon officially declares the start of their operation. Out on the field, Samejima is aggressively directing students when Lemon approaches him and suggests that he take a break. He initially refuses, but when Lemon attempts to be charming, he quickly changes his mind. Her eye twitches. The girls rush out to hand out flyers, but soon realize they are moving too slowly and won't reach enough students in time. Suddenly, Nene calls the group into a huddle. She then proposes a new idea. After hearing the plan, Rika hesitates, but since everyone else agrees, she ultimately goes along with it. Moments later, the girls return in full cosplay, enthusiastically urging students to take a flyer and join their event. Their appearance immediately draws attention from all around the field. Even Aris is shocked by how boldly and effectively the girls are handling the situation, understanding why Nene had asked him to leave. As Aris smiles at their efforts, Lemon suddenly runs toward him with an eager Samejima chasing after her. She explains that she can't hold him off any longer. Samejima notices the growing crowd, so Aris quickly ushers the girls back into the broadcast room. They manage to make it inside safely. Now all that's left is to wait for students to join their event. Rika gathers everyone to review the procedure one last time. They have designated the classroom next door as the waiting room, where some members will assist participants. The room is kept dark to ensure privacy. When it is a student's turn to confess, they will step outside and use the string phone placed just outside the broadcast room. Shinobu will be the one receiving the message. The girls huddle together and cheer before quickly taking their positions. Shinobu stands by the broadcasting table, feeling surreal that her event is finally happening. She is nervous, but the first knock signals that a student is ready to confess. She picks up the string phone and begins reciting her prepared lines. Suddenly, she hears a familiar voice telling her that if she flubs her lines, she must do a dare. She immediately realizes it is one of the other girls from the club. She opens the door only to see them walking away, teasing her because they know she can't tell which one spoke. Shinobu looks back at the string phone and realizes that its distortion makes voices completely unrecognizable. Lunch break finally begins. Shinobu announces the morning results and officially introduces their special event. Samejima hears this and grows suspicious, but Lemon is already prepared to distract him once again. Shinobu receives the first confession and gets ready to announce it. The message is from a girl who has fallen in love with a boy named Shindo from Class 2A. When his name is read aloud, Shindo spits out his drink in shock as students around him erupt in chatter. The confession explains that she wants to date him and asks him to stand if he is willing to accept her feelings. Without hesitation, Shindo stands up, and the crowd bursts into cheers. The broadcast reaches the faculty room, but the teachers seem amused rather than angry. They remark that the only one who would truly oppose this is Samejima, who at that moment is still being distracted by Lemon and doesn't even hear the announcement. After the success of the first confession, other students begin to seriously consider participating as well. They voice their eagerness to confess their feelings without the need to be there in person. Meanwhile, in the waiting room, Nene peeks out the window, basking in the excitement surrounding their event. Rika quickly reminds her to keep the room dark, pointing out that this was Shinobu's idea from the start. Rika reflects on how brilliant Shinobu's plan is. She explains that many students probably want to say something but feel too awkward to do it directly, and this event gives them the perfect chance while keeping their identity a secret. Outside, another student confesses through the broadcast, but this time the girl rejects the confessor. Nene peeks out again in curiosity, only for Rika to scold her once more. Iko suddenly asks the two girls if there is anything they would like to confess. Both Nene and Rika immediately turn red, thinking she meant a love confession. Sensing their panic, Iko clarifies that it doesn't have to be a love confession. Relieved, Nene admits that there is someone she wants to thank, but she finds it difficult to face him because they are always butting heads. She adds that she also wants to apologize to him. Rika then shares that there is someone she has been cold toward lately, and she wants to clear the air with him. She laughs nervously and asks Iko what she would want to say. Iko admits that she recently voice chatted with someone and suddenly went quiet, which worries her because she might have made him anxious. She says she wants to tell him that she is perfectly fine. Before they can continue, more students arrive at the waiting room. The girls eagerly welcome them in, though their thoughts keep drifting back to Aris. Suddenly, the entire school hears a sharp feedback screech from the microphone. Shinobu panics as the broadcast equipment begins to malfunction. She rushes to the controls but quickly realizes that trying to fix it might make things even worse. Overwhelmed, she crouches down in fear, convinced she is about to fail again. The other girls burst into the room, and Shinobu can't hold back her tears. Rika and Iko examine the equipment together, but neither of them knows how to repair it. Reluctantly, they realize they have no choice but to stop the event. However, Shinobu refuses to give up. She opens the window of the broadcast room and declares that she will continue the announcement using only her own voice. The girls try desperately to stop her, warning that she could damage her throat, but Shinobu is determined to keep the event running. Just then, they are all stunned when Aris appears in the room holding a megaphone. He casually reveals that he stole it from Samejima earlier with Lemon's help. Aris tells the girls that using the megaphone is their best option, since they have no idea how long it will take to repair the equipment. To everyone's surprise, Shinobu suddenly hugs him in front of all of them, openly thanking him for always coming through for her. Aris leans close and whispers that he is still her partner in crime. He hands her the megaphone and insists that she continue the event, since they already have several clients waiting. From the open window, Shinobu announces that they will proceed with the confessions using a megaphone, calling it a special twist for their event. She invites everyone to gather in the courtyard so they can hear better, and students immediately begin heading there. The girls rush back to their stations only to realize that Aris has already slipped away. As more confessions come in, Shinobu receives one addressed specifically to Aris. She carries on with the broadcast. The next message turns out to be a confession about the hole in the wall, which makes the crowd burst into laughter at how bizarre it is. Meanwhile, Aris stands among the gathered students, now back in his regular uniform since his sports duties are finished. From this point on, he plans to focus entirely on helping the broadcast club. Shinobu then announces that the next confession will be the final one, even though many students have already confessed. She explains that the confessor wants to apologize for betraying someone who had been devoted to her 3 years ago. The crowd assumes it's about a painful breakup. Shinobu continues, saying the confessor regrets breaking a promise and was shocked to hear his voice again after all this time. As Iris listens, a sinking feeling settles in. The story sounds far too familiar, and he becomes almost certain the message is from Apollo. Suddenly, Shinobu lowers the megaphone. In her own clear voice, she calls out his first name and tells him that she loves him. Then she lifts the megaphone again, formally declaring the end of their noon event and wishing everyone luck for the remaining sports competitions in the afternoon. The crowd buzzes with curiosity over the unexpected confession. Iris, however, is deeply confused. Apollo had always ended her broadcasts with an "I love you" before, but this is the first time she has ever said it just for him. He decides to head to the club room to find out the truth. Meanwhile, the three girls in the waiting room look uneasy and restless. Iris spots Shinobu in the hallway and immediately confronts her. Shinobu, however, insists that it wasn't her and that she has no idea who delivered the final confession. Noticing how badly she is shaking, Iris chooses to set aside his search for Apollo for the moment. Instead, he congratulates Shinobu on the event, telling her how successful it was and even pointing out that she didn't flub her lines like she usually does. Hearing his praise finally breaks her. Tears well up in her eyes as she confesses how terrified she had been at wasting the club's time. Iris panics slightly and tries to calm her down, worried that her crying might cause a misunderstanding. Shinobu doesn't care. She hugs him anyway. If they end up getting scolded by a teacher, then they'll face it together. Later, the school begins its cleanup now that the sports events are over. Lemon supervises the students but pointedly refuses to lift a finger herself. Meanwhile, Iris rushes back to the club room to help tidy up. He is worried the girls will scold him for not helping. Just then, his phone chimes, signaling a message from Apollo. She tells him that she will be waiting for him in the broadcast room. Without hesitation, Iris sprints there. When he reaches the door, he notices the string phone still hanging outside. He picks it up and hears Apollo's voice greeting him. Apollo confesses that she is using this method since she is still scared of facing him. He asked her directly about the confession. Apollo admits that she really did want to express her feelings, and that she was tired of hiding the fact that she had run away from her radio show. Iris jokes that she should just show herself in person, but to his shock, Apollo replies that she might actually do so. Since she was the one who told him to come to the broadcast room, her intention was to reveal herself to him. After the sports festival, the broadcast club celebrates the success of their event at Lemon's house that evening. The girls are confused about why they had to change out of their uniforms, so Lemon explains that it would cause trouble if they were seen still wearing them. For tonight, she says they are not students or a club, they are just friends hanging out together. The group decides to make a toast and Rika is made to lead it. She accepts and congratulates everyone for all the work they have done, making a special mention of Shinobu's efforts. Then she thanks Lemon for paying for everything, which shocks Lemon, who immediately protests that she doesn't have much money. As the girls cheer, Rika casually adds that this is Lemon's punishment for slacking off on her work as their advisor. Lemon decides not to argue further and instead looks around the room, suddenly noticing how dressed up everyone is. She immediately teases Iris, claiming that the girls clearly dressed up to impress him. All of them, except Rika, hurriedly make excuses about their outfits being a coincidence. Rika, however, boldly admits that she chose hers on purpose, hoping Iris would compliment her. When Lemon turns to Iris for his opinion, he's already fast asleep from sheer exhaustion. Rika approaches him, half teasing and half scolding him for dozing off so suddenly without getting the chance to see her in a nice outfit. Since Iris is out cold anyway, the girls decide to continue with a girls-only gathering. They at least move him properly onto the bed so he can rest comfortably before heading out together to buy food to share. On the way out, Iko casually remarks on the bean sprouts growing in the bathroom. Lemon insists that it's actually a very practical place for them since water is always available. After some time passes, Iko is the first to return. She calmly puts the food she bought into the fridge and quietly approaches the still sleeping Iris. Lying beside him on the bed, she softly wonders about his hug with Shinobu and quietly asks whether the two of them might already be dating. Not long after, Nene also comes back. She notices Iko's shoes by the entrance, sets down her own food, and walks into the room, only to freeze when she sees Iko leaning over Iris like she's about to kiss him. When Iko leans in again, Nene finally reveals herself, startling Iko and making her stop mid-movement. For a moment, both girls awkwardly pretend that nothing just happened. They sit together at the edge of the bed and start talking, with Nene subtly trying to coax out what Iko was really about to do. Her own curiosity surprises her because logically, she feels like it shouldn't matter to her at all if Iko had decided to kiss him. Finally, Iko shyly asks how long Nene had been back. Nene panics and hurriedly insists that she's just arrived, but before she can say anything else, Iko suddenly asks if Nene has ever kissed someone. After a moment of stunned silence, Nene gathers herself and decides to answer honestly that she's already kissed someone. However, she carefully omits that it was with Oris and that a manga had been awkwardly sandwiched between them. Iko is so impressed by how mature Nene sounds that she barely registers Nene's next question. Nene bluntly asks whether Iko likes Oris, openly admitting that she caught her almost kissing him. Iko turns bright red and starts panicking again, scratching her head in a desperate attempt to calm herself. When she finally manages to speak normally, Iko admits that she isn't sure if she has feelings for Oris since this is the first time she has ever felt something like this. She then turns the question around and asks Nene what she feels for him. At first, Nene firmly says that she hates boys. After a beat, however, she reluctantly adds that Oris might be the exception. Before Iko can fully process this admission, they suddenly hear Shinobu calling for them. Both girls immediately panic and search the room for somewhere to hide. Shinobu enters the room and finds it empty, looking confused when she is sure she saw that Iko's and Nene's shoes were already by the entrance. In reality, the two girls are hiding under the bed. Shinobu sits down on the edge of the bed and softly speaks to the sleeping Oris, saying she wants to apologize for a few things. First, she brings up the hug. She admits that she acted on her feelings in that moment because he saved their event and hopes he doesn't mind. She gently takes his hand and confesses that she actually liked the hug. Then she says she also needs to apologize for lying to him. She begins to explain that it's about the confession event, but before she can go further, she hears Rika entering the apartment. In a panic, Shinobu tries to crawl under the bed, only to discover Nene and Iko already hiding there. Somehow, she squeezes in just in time before Rika steps into the room. Like Shinobu earlier, Rika assumes she is the first one back. Seeing that Oris is still asleep, she decides to change her clothes right there, shocking the girls beneath the bed. After switching into something more conservative, she walks over to him and mutters in annoyance that he didn't even compliment her earlier. Tentatively, she touches his fingers and is surprised to feel the familiar calyces, a clear sign that he is still playing the guitar. She tells him quietly that she's writing a new song but suddenly hears Iko sneeze. Realizing the sound came from under the bed, Rika bends down, looks underneath, and confronts all three girls at once. Eventually, Oris wakes up and the first thing he notices is all the girls sitting around the table looking unusually depressed. He wonders aloud if they fought and they reluctantly admit that they did, but over something he never would have expected. The girls reveal that they all came back with whole cakes, which means they now have nothing but different cakes to eat. Each of them confesses that she wanted to bring Oris something sweet to help him recover from his exhaustion. Not wanting to disappoint them, Oris immediately starts digging in. He boldly declares that he has a huge sweet tooth and that 4 cakes are nothing to him. Still, the girls watch with concern as he clearly struggles to finish the cakes they bought for him. A few moments later, Lemon strolls in and proudly announces that she also bought a cake, much to Oris's despair. To everyone's shock, Oris somehow manages to finish all of it. Now seated on the couch, he grimaces when Lemon cheerfully insists that he should eat her cake too. Desperate to avoid more sugar, Oris quickly suggests that they play a game instead to mark the occasion. Lemon agrees and brings out a deck of cards and a Jenga set, declaring that whoever loses must eat the entire cake. She then sits back on the couch with a can of beer and says she'll sit out, claiming she doesn't allow herself carbs past 8 p.m. Nene immediately chooses Jenga, not wanting to play any thinking games since she's sure she'd lose to Oris. Oris smugly confirms that he's very good at strategy games. With the tower set up, Nene goes first. She takes so long, carefully pulling out her block and placing it on top, that she's stunned when the other girls breeze through their turns with ease. When it's Oris's turn, he asks if he can poke around the tower before deciding. Lemon gives him permission, noting that he clearly knows what he's doing since that's a classic Jenga tactic. Oris casually mentions that his family used to play Jenga sometimes. He then quickly finds an easy block, removes it smoothly, and places it on top of the tower. He ends his turn with a confident smirk, which immediately annoys Nene. The girls notice how certain he looks about winning. Meanwhile, Rika seems slightly disappointed that Oris didn't even comment on her changed outfit. As they chat and Nene struggles with her next move, Oris suddenly feels drowsy from all the cake. His gaze drifts over his clubmates as a thought crosses his mind. One of the girls is definitely Apollo, since she had been in the club room that afternoon. He recalls that in their conversation, Apollo had already been willing to reveal herself, but Oris was the one who chose not to know. He reasoned that he wanted to uncover her identity on his own. If she simply told him, it would feel like defeat. He declared that by the time all the club members became professionals, he would be able to determine who she really is. Apollo expressed doubts about his plan. She asked whether his goal was truly to make her into a professional, but Oris said it was for a more personal reason, one he wasn't ready to share yet. He added that after hearing all the members' voices, he'd have found a new goal. He told her that he wanted to become a producer, someone who could work on music, create programs, and even be involved in anime. That way, he could work alongside her. Apollo found his declaration amusing, but also a little self-centered. She then told him to close his eyes. He complied, and when he did, she opened the door. Aris panicked at how careless she was being, but when he heard no reaction from outside, he opened his eyes only to find that Apollo had already slipped away. Returning from the memory, he snaps back to the present when he hears Nene call his name. To his shock, the Jenga tower in front of him has completely transformed. While he was spaced out, the four girls had teamed up to build an impossibly unstable tower, one that could collapse with a single touch. He protests that this should be against the rules, but Lemon casually reveals that she already gave the girls permission to proceed. Aris mutters that he should have seen this coming, weakly questioning Lemon's credibility as a teacher. Nene grows impatient and tells him to hurry up and take his turn. Studying the tower, Aris realizes that his usual strategy is useless. Forced to rely purely on his eyes, he carefully scans every block before locking onto one in the center. He slowly pulls it out, shocking everyone. For a brief moment, the tower remains perfectly still. Then, almost in slow motion, it begins to tilt and fall straight toward him. The girls gasp because they had actually thought he might win for a second. Nene breaks into a triumphant grin, and the instant the blocks crash onto the table, she cheers in victory. Moments later, Aris and the girls step outside Lemon's apartment. The girls admire the full moon hanging in the night sky. Aris walks a little behind them as his thoughts drift back to the afternoon. After Apollo had left the room, he had closed his eyes again and turned away from the corridor, hoping she might still be lingering nearby. In that moment, he had confessed that he had been a longtime fan and that he was happy to have found her again and to be able to hear her voice once more. He remembers how Shinobu had delivered Apollo's confession, this time directed only to him. He feels grateful to her for that as well, since it was the first time Apollo had ever addressed him by his name. Back in the present, he can't help but feel a little uneasy that he still can't identify Apollo's voice. The girls notice him lagging behind and stop until he catches up. Shinobu gently comments that he must be exhausted. Aris insists that he isn't any more tired than they are, since the broadcast club had all worked incredibly hard today. His voice brightens as he tells them that they should be proud of themselves for a job well done. Nene is initially offended since his tone sounds almost like he was the one in charge, but after a beat, she softly agrees. Nene and Rika then share that they had a lot of fun with the proxy confession event, which surprises Shinobu. They admit that it was difficult to pull off, but say that it's something they'd like to do again someday. Shinobu smiles at their enthusiasm over an event she created. She agrees that they should do it again someday, then looks at each of her club members and sincerely thanks them for all the work they did to make the event a success. In response, everyone smiles back at her. Aris smiles too, but his expression subtly dims when he recalls Apollo's final whisper to him. His eyes had been closed when she whispered that she would cherish his words. One afternoon, Rika holds her usual concert. As she sings her final song, Aris notices that she has gained more fans, although she still has not performed any original songs. In the crowd, he spots an unfamiliar girl named Aiko, who used to be Rika's bandmate. Rika notices Aiko leaving, unconsciously stops singing mid-song, and ends her concert early. Aris senses that Rika and Aiko know each other, so he approaches Aiko. However, she completely ignores him and keeps walking. He calls out to her several times, but she refuses to acknowledge him. Finally, he pulls out a red balloon and threatens to pop it right next to her, which finally grabs her attention. Aris immediately asks why she was ignoring him. When Aiko bluntly says it is because she finds him annoying, he argues that he is not. He then asks why she seemed irritated during Rika's performance. Instead of answering directly, Aiko asks what he thinks about Rika's concerts. Aris replies that Rika is doing well since she is familiar with popular songs and can skillfully imitate the singing styles of many artists. Aiko looks dissatisfied. She explains that it is the songs that are popular, not Rika herself. Under her breath, she mutters that Rika was not like this before. Realizing that Aiko must be an old friend, Aris tries to ask about their past, but Aiko suddenly storms off, so he decides to follow her. Meanwhile, Rika sits alone in a karaoke room to start working seriously on original songs. However, she quickly becomes unhappy with every set of lyrics she writes. Frustrated, she wonders if she should just quit and tell Aris. A knock interrupts her thoughts. When she gets up to decline the drink, she finds Aris standing there instead. She smiles and asks how he knew she would be at the karaoke bar. Aris reveals that an old friend of hers told him. Rika suspects Aiko, only to find out that Aiko hasn't even given her name to Aris. He explains that he approached Aiko because she was the only one in the crowd who looked bored during the concert. Rika asks what Aiko said about her performance, but Aris simply replies that Rika probably already knows the feedback. Rika admits that Aiko was upset with her for choosing to cover songs instead of performing originals. Aris then asks why she still cannot sing her original pieces. Before he can press further, Rika suddenly covers his mouth and boldly declares that the reason is too embarrassing. So Rika proposes a karaoke battle with her secret on the line. She begins flipping through the songbook, but Aris takes it from her and insists on a handicap. He chooses the final song from her concert the previous day and adds that she must perform the dance as well. When the music starts, Rika nervously steps forward. She begins singing shakily, clearly self-conscious about her appearance. Watching her, Aris feels confident. He knows that when Rika does something she dislikes, she tends to hold back and become overly aware. However, Rika suddenly stops the track and restarts the song. This time, she moves into the musical intro effortlessly, dancing as if the rhythm is ingrained in her body. When the lyrics begin again, her voice flows smoothly and confidently, catching Aris off guard. He watches her closely and realizes that she has been suppressing far more talent than he expected. During the instrumental break, she approaches him and teasingly asks which part of her looks nervous now, though in truth, she's only pretending to be confident. A staff member enters to deliver her tea, but upon seeing their proximity, quickly excuses himself and leaves. When the scoring appears, Rika earns nearly a 96. Aris begins to panic slightly since he is not certain he can score that high. Determined, he selects a song he knows well and confidently tells Rika to prepare herself, boasting that he has a beautiful voice. When the music starts, Rika is surprised by Aris' choice. As he begins singing, she cannot help but think that he is not particularly skilled vocally. Still, the song itself holds meaning for her. When the results appear, Aris scores nearly 20 points lower than Rika. He immediately argues that the machine must be malfunctioning. Rika ignores his complaints and instead asks why he chose that song. Aris remembers that when he spoke to Aiko earlier, he noticed she was wearing a band shirt and asked if she liked that group. Aiko admitted that she did, and it happened to be Rika's favorite band as well. He also remembers that Apollo once enthusiastically talked about the same band during her broadcasts. He tells Rika that Hub Notes is a band he loves and was recommended to him by someone. Rika smiles at his answer, then agrees to tell him why she stopped singing original songs. Aris is startled, but Rika insists that he actually sang better than she did, and that the score does not matter. Aris celebrates loudly. Then once he settles down, Rika explains that several things happened that made her afraid of performing her original music. She admits that seeing even a hint of disappointment in the audience when she performs her own songs terrifies her. With cover songs, she can hide safely behind music that people already love. Aris sits quietly, processing her confession. Her fear makes sense, but he also understands that it is something she must overcome if she truly wants to become a professional. Rika adds that she has been trying to write new songs lately, but fear suddenly overwhelms her, leaving her unable to continue. Aris thinks carefully about what he can say to help. Absent-mindedly, he takes a sip of her tea and admits that he once felt something similar. When he was younger, he was forced to join activities and was often pushed onto the stage. Rika asks how he managed to overcome his fear. Instead of answering directly, Aris suggests that she start by performing her old original songs again. He proposes holding a small concert featuring only her original pieces, so she can slowly grow accustomed to singing her own work in front of others again. Rika immediately starts to protest, but Aris firmly insists. She calls him insensitive, yet when she sees that he has no intention of backing down, she reluctantly agrees to go along with his plan. They decide to hold the concert a week later on the rooftop. On the day of the concert, Rika stares at the staircase leading up to the roof. She wonders why Aris didn't just hold it in her usual spot. The change in location only makes her nerves spike. She had thought Aris would be more considerate of her feelings. Instead, his actions remind her of a certain man she once knew back when she was actively making music. Shakily, she reaches for the handle and opens the rooftop door, prepared to tell Aris she won't go through with the concert. But she notices that only her club members are there. Aris tells her that this concert is meant to help her practice singing her own songs again. He wouldn't throw her into the wolves without preparation. The girls reassure her that they're here to help her overcome her fears. Aris locks the door so no one can accidentally walk in. Rika opens the concert with a short speech, but she struggles to get the words out and admits she's nervous. Aris worries her trauma might be deeper than he initially thought. Then the girls pull out handmade cheering fans for Rika. They sheepishly admit they made them at the last minute, but promise to prepare better ones for her real concert someday. Shinobu adds that Rika can always look their way if she starts feeling nervous. Rika smiles at their unwavering support and begins to sing. They're instantly transported back to their middle school days when Rika used to hold mini concerts just for them as they talked about their futures and cheered her on toward her dream. Rika remembers the promise she made back then, that she would give these girls front row seats to her first big concert. When the concert ends, Rika scolds Aris for not telling her it was a private performance because it had shattered her trust in him. Now he has to make it up to her by treating her to karaoke so he can help her practice. Aris pales and asks how much his credit score with her has dropped. Rika tells him it's down to 80. Aris thinks back to the private concert. A lot of the songs definitely needed work, but they had a charm that was uniquely Rika's. He still has no idea why she stopped writing altogether when she clearly has talent for it, but thanks to the broadcast club's efforts, he believes Rika is finally heading in the right direction. As he watches them hug Rika after the concert, he is sure the four girls will be able to overcome any hurdle thrown at them as long as they continue to share this close bond. So on their next day off, Aris brings them to a large shopping mall with the goal of strengthening their bond. They split up to check the area out, but Shinobu hangs back and asks Aris to help her pick out some clothes. Aris thinks the other girls would have better opinions, but Shinobu quietly admits she has gained some weight and doesn't want the others to find out. She quickly rushes toward a store and urges him to follow. She tries on pieces that look nice on display, and Aris diligently scores each one, pointing out their good features. He notices that most of the clothes she chose are white, prompting Shinobu to admit that she simply likes white clothing. Aris recalls that Apollo shared the same love for white outfits. As he observes Shinobu more closely, he realizes that all four girls show traces of Apollo other than their voices. Shinobu catches him staring and teasingly suggests that he must really like the outfit she's wearing. Without hesitation, Aris admits that it's the one that makes her look the cutest. Shinobu immediately grows shy and retreats back into the dressing room. After leaving the shop, Aris wonders where the other three girls went, but Iko suddenly crashes into his back, pleading for his help. She drags him to a row of crane games and shows him a plushie stuck in the chute, explaining that she has already spent a lot of money trying to win it. Aris confidently reassures her that he's a crane game expert and promises to get it out. With careful movements, he uses the crane to push the plush down the chute, and to Iko's delight, it drops out perfectly. When he hands it to her, she immediately rubs it against herself, explaining that she doesn't want it to carry unfamiliar scents. Aris recalls that Apollo once mentioned having the same habit. He's about to question her about it, but Iko quickly dismisses him. Grumbling, Aris looks around for the remaining girls and spots Nene calling out to him because she ordered too much takoyaki. As he walks toward her, he remembers that Apollo's favorite topping was mentai mayo, so he casually asks what flavor she ordered. Nene reveals she got green onions and mentai mayo, which shocks Aris enough to make him raise his voice. When he asks for a toothpick, Nene decides to feed him instead, since she was only given one to share. After he finishes chewing, she teasingly asks if it feels good being fed by a super cute girl like her. Aris refuses to answer and instead asks about Rika's whereabouts. Nene tells him that Rika is by the pond watching ducks, which prompts Aris to run off immediately. Nene sighs in disappointment that he left so quickly while she was still trying to tease him. By evening, Aris gathers everyone at a karaoke bar and announces that they will deepen their bond there instead. Rika teasingly comments that Aris must have really enjoyed their previous karaoke date, which shocks the other three girls. Rika decides to sing first and ends up choosing the same song he sang. Aris begins to wonder if this is some kind of hint that she is the real Apollo. However, the other girls suddenly start singing along, which forces Aris to stop the song in shock. They reveal that they are all fans of the band, yet strangely enough, none of them can remember how they were first introduced to the band, something that mirrors Apollo's own forgetfulness. Thanks for watching. Make sure to subscribe so you won't miss new episode every week.